Okay, let's jump right into this. Picture this for a second. It's the summer of 2026. You're sitting at a nice little beachside cafe, and you're secretly counting your pennies just to see if you can actually afford that second iced coffee. We've all been there, right? Meanwhile, behind the scenes in the global financial markets, an old friend is living its absolute best life. Honestly, it's like this asset slapped on some Factor 50 sunscreen and decided to spend the whole summer soaking up rays on a premium VIP lounger. That old friend? It's gold. In this explainer, we're going to contrast the massive, historic moves happening in the gold market with the everyday, sometimes harsh reality of our own wallets.
And that brings us to a really fundamental question, one we absolutely need to ask before we go spending our last few euros. What is our money really worth? Because let's be real, for a lot of us, we wake up, we get paid, we cover our basic bills, and then we just cross our fingers and hope to find a spare euro left over at the end. It's a constant juggling act just to make it to the end of the month. So how do we actually reconcile our everyday grinding financial struggles with the massive billions of dollars financial moves happening right under our noses in the background?
To really understand that disconnect, just wrap your head around this number. By August of 2026, gold was hovering around an absolutely incredible $4,400 per ounce. Now, the market is constantly reacting, right? It reacts to inflation, shifting interest rates, complex monetary policy, geopolitics, you name it. And the demand we're seeing is showing enormous strength. But this record-breaking price tag leads us to a really interesting, kind of controversial question. Is gold actually rising that much, or is our money simply buying less and less?
To put that into perspective, imagine you had 1,000 euros just a few years ago. Today, the number printed on your bank statement is exactly the same. The problem only pops up when you try to buy the exact same things with those 1,000 euros today. Inflation has entered the chat, secretly and slowly eroding away your purchasing power. So, saying gold is rising is, well, technically correct, but saying gold is rising and my money is losing purchasing power forces us to look at the complete picture. Gold might literally just be holding its value while the currency itself shrinks.
And while you and I are sweating over the price of olive oil at the supermarket, take a look at who's actually doing the heavy lifting in the gold market. In 2025 alone, central banks hoarded roughly 863 tons of the stuff. Poland actually snatched up 102 tons all by itself. And at massive buying spree, it continued right into 2026, adding an estimated 244 net tons in just the very first quarter. Guys, we are talking about literal tons of gold here. That's enough to tell us we aren't just dealing with some passing retail fad on TikTok.
Now, let's look at the psychology of the people who actually manage the world's money. According to a June 2026 survey, a massive 89% of consulted reserve managers expect central bank gold reserves to increase over the next 12 months. Think about that. While everyday people are wondering if they can afford to scrape together enough for a tiny fractional gold coin, the institutional giants are out there hoarding tons of it. It definitely makes you suspect that this is part of a much larger, long-term shift in the global economy.
The sheer scale of this global demand is staggering. In Q1 2026 alone, global demand hit 1,231 tons. That translates to an economic value of $193 billion. $193 billion, and it is not just the big institutions getting in on the action. Demand for physical bars and coins absolutely skyrocketed across Europe and China, with retail buyers frantically grabbing everything they can physically hold before the floor collapses beneath the weight of it all.
But hey, before we get completely swept up in the hype, and trust me, it's easy to do, we need to bring the temperature down for a second. Is gold a zero-risk asset? Definitely not. Historically, sure, it's considered a safe haven, but saying gold never goes down is like saying it never rains in the Canary Islands in summer. Gold can drop, and it can drop fast. A sudden reduction in central bank purchases or tightening liquidity could easily pressure the price downward. It is an amazing diversification tool, absolutely, but it still carries real market risk.
So here is the absolute crucial point. We can talk for hours about central banks and hundreds of billions of dollars, but what if you earn 1,000 euros a month and you are balancing on a daily financial tightrope? Telling someone in that position to just go buy an ounce of gold is practically like telling them to go buy a private island for diversification. I mean, it sounds beautiful, but it's completely useless advice. It reminds us of the old fable of the ant and the grasshopper. Proper financial education is like being that ant. You don't need to be rich to start. You just need to learn what to do with the money you actually have right now. Now, a classic mistake a lot of people make is thinking, well, I'll just buy a nice gold necklace. But listen, with jewelry, you're paying a huge markup for the craftsmanship, the design, and the retail store's margins. When you try to pawn it or sell it later, the buyers, they only care about the raw metal's weight.
So that 500 euro necklace might have a very complicated, disappointing relationship with the number 500 when you actually try to sell it. Resale is tough, and storing physical bars in your house has obvious security risks. Instead, a much more modern alternative is something called an ETC, which is backed by physical metal, gives you easy access, and comes with super low fees.
So if you want exposure to gold without hiding a shockingly heavy metal bar under your mattress, you might look into something like the iShares Physical Gold ETC. Let's be totally clear on what this is. It's an exchange-traded commodity. It's a financial instrument that simply tracks the benchmark price of gold and is fully physically backed by the actual metal. You get to participate in the upside of the gold market, completely avoiding the need to turn your guest bedroom into a high-security bank vault.
Products like this track the gold price with tiny, almost negligible annual fees. We're talking like 0.12%, and they store the physical metal safely in a London vault. Why does this matter for us? Because with fractional investing, you can buy into this for as little as 10 euros a month. You don't have to try to become King Midas overnight. You are just smartly building a position, little by little, on your own terms. But here is a quick reality check for you. Unlike buying stock in a really profitable tech company, gold does not pay dividends. You shouldn't be sitting around waiting for a notification on your phone saying, "Hey, your gold just paid you a dividend." As the source material humorously notes, gold does not send you a Venmo, a Bizum, or any kind of digital cash transfer. It literally just sits there. The only way you ever make a profit is if you eventually sell it to someone else for more than you paid. And this, right here, brings us to the ultimate Trojan horse of this entire explainer. You could earn 1,000 euros a month, or you could earn 10,000 euros a month. But before you even entertain the thought of buying gold, or ETFs, or crypto, you have to pass a basic reality check. Ask yourself, do I have a budget? Do I actually have an emergency fund? Am I controlling my debt? Am I saving anything at all? If you don't know the firm answers to these questions, your money will always feel like it's mysteriously vanishing into thin air. As the source material perfectly puts it, investing without controlling your household economy is like buying a Ferrari without money for gas. I mean, sure, it looks absolutely beautiful parked in your driveway, but you aren't going anywhere. If you don't know how to manage everyday money, it's basically like trying to fill a swimming pool with a bucket while the drain at the bottom is wide open. The core problem might not actually be earning too little, it might just be not knowing how to organize what you already earn.
Which leads us to household economy for everyone, rebuilding your finances from absolute zero.
To plug that black hole in your finances, that place where money seems to take the elevator up but takes a rocket ship down, a truly great place to start is the 5 accounts plan. First, you cover basic expenses. Second, you build that emergency fund. Third, savings for very specific goals. Fourth, you have to budget for leisure because we're human. And finally, investment. The whole idea is incredibly straightforward. You give every single euro a specific mission before you find a random, impulsive way to spend it on a Tuesday night. The real secret is just stopping the money you already make from mysteriously disappearing.
So let's look at what your real to-do list should be. Because honestly, nobody knows if gold will double or crash tomorrow. But we do know for a fact that you don't need to buy it tomorrow. Start with the boring stuff. I know it's not glamorous, but learn to save, control your expenses, understand how inflation works, and understand risk. Learn how things like ETs operate and exactly what taxes you're going to owe on them. Once you've done all that foundation building, then you decide what to do with your cash.
I absolutely love this quote from the text because it hits so incredibly close to home for all of us. In school, they taught us the rivers of Europe, but nobody explained what to do when a 700 euro bill unexpectedly arrives in the mail. Taking control of your financial stability is an active, conscious decision. The absolute best investment you can make this summer isn't buying into a gold mine, it's investing the time to learn how to manage your own household economy. Now, before we completely pack up our beach umbrella and head home, a quick but important disclaimer. Everything we've covered today is simply an explainer analyzing the source material's thoughts on gold, inflation, and savings. This does not constitute professional financial advice. Gold can drop in price, and literally all investments carry some level of risk. Tax conditions depend strictly on what country you live in. But most importantly, never ever invest money that you desperately need for your basic, everyday living expenses. Because think about it, it is one thing to want to protect your hard-earned savings, but it is a completely different and terrible thing to find yourself trying to eat physical gold bars in August because you tied up your grocery money in a metal. And honestly, they don't taste very good anyway. So start with your foundation, fix the leaky pool, master your own daily budget, and let the investments naturally follow. So here's my question for you. What's the very first step you're going to take today to plug that black hole in your bank account?